Hi, I'm Jeff with Holy City Haunters. We're taking a look at the behind the scenes of my 2020 haunt. Check it out. All right, so for the past 4 years or so, I've been using this crypt facade for my haunt. This has been working out really well. I enjoyed the theme. It's a pretty basic theme. Cemetery, mausoleum walkthrough with some scares. The construction of the panels, it's just standard panel builds. They're actually done with a tongue and groove way of putting them together. And that's why you're going to see why they're all gray, because it was supposed to be like you're in a tomb. But it's time to change the theme, and 2020 was the year I was supposed to do that, and that kind of got thrown out the window. So I wasn't even sure I was going to do a haunt for 2020. But I decided at the last minute to go ahead with it, and so I sort of cobbled this together. I had a bunch of stuff to do the hotel, but I didn't have the facade. I didn't have time to build that, so I was like, all right, let me just try to make the front kind of look like a building the best I could. So I added some sconces from Goodwill. Most of the stuff you're going to see in here is from Goodwill. But added some plants out front. Wasn't hard to find plants that were dead. That's kind of where plants go to die, is our house, so we've got plenty to choose from. So yeah, construction, I figured I was going to do something as simple as possible that I could build pretty quickly. So I did more of a hallway. It's about 8 feet wide, 32 feet long, and then I've got a 12 foot by 8 foot hallway that goes off to the side, and that's kind of where I had the guest rooms located. But we'll kind of take a look and walk through and show you basically how it was done. The one thing I'll mention, the ceiling, so I'm sure I'm going to get some questions on that. Basically, it was just a 2x2 frame with some 4x8 foam panels that I painted black. That way it was super light. I could put it up by myself. And then I just put some plastic over the top just to make it watertight. And that worked out great because we had some pretty heavy downpours and everything stayed dry, no damage. We did have a windstorm that did make the plastic come off. Other than that, it was good. So enough with all that. Let's continue on with the tour. So when the guests come in, we start off in the guest check-in. So here I've got a little desk with kind of some books and a typewriter. Got a keyboard up there with some skeleton keys. A little shot of that. Just got those on Amazon, I think for $20 or $10 for 20 keys. Got some artwork over here. Got all of this at Goodwill, including the wallpaper. I did have music playing throughout the haunt, and when they would come in, they would be hearing some 1920s music coming through this radio here. I did take the insides out, put a LED bulb behind the dial, and had a speaker in there. And what I did was send the dry signal to the radio, and then throughout the rest of the haunt, I applied some reverb to give some depth and space to the music that was playing, so it sounded like you were getting further away from the front. So up here, just got some photos that I printed offline, some creepy families. I apologize if it's your family, but it's creepy nonetheless. For lighting, I've got nano spots from Fright Props. These are great little theatrical spots. These are all in amber, really help sell the mood, the theme. They're easy to hide. They're 12 volt. So just a quick note on the nano spots. You can run up to 33 on a 1 amp power supply. You can run up to 166 on a 5 amp power supply, and up to 333 of these little guys on a 10 amp power supply. And they're only around $6, so you got lots of options. All right, so moving into the next room, we've got a grandfather clock. that I picked up at Goodwill for $50. That was a really good find. Next year I hope to have this clock animated, doing some movement. But as the guests walk through to this room, there's a beam sensor down here. I think you can see it there. See it being triggered there. That actually starts the scene going down the hallway. So the beam sensor actually triggers a Boo Box Flex. So everything in this scene is triggered from that, is run off that. So the lights that you see there, that's hooked up to the Boo Box, as well as a Sprite media player. So what I did was take a projection video file from Atmosphere Effects. It was from their Macabre collection. It was of the Victorian woman. And I edited that down so it was just a few seconds long, and I paired that up with a lightning box and some LED lights behind it. So when she blew the candle out, the flash of lightning would occur, and from behind the panel there that you can kind of see in the back, it would illuminate the silhouette of this static prop. And this is just something I've had for years, just repurposed it for this. So that's just the Hallusion material the Atmosphere sells, just around a frame, and it worked out pretty good. I had some issues with the lighting and the timing, and I'll kind of get into that a little bit when I show the actual Boo Box setup, but it worked out pretty good. So the other thing to notice in this room, I did have a projection of hands on this side, which was pretty creepy. I think a lot of people liked seeing that. So we move forward. Next little room area, there's another beam sensor that gets triggered here. And you can see that down there. Another beam sensor. And basically all that was doing was triggering audio. So I had a speaker underneath that chair, and it was just sort of suspenseful music that was changing the mood as I went into sort of this portrait area. A couple things, I've got sconce here, got that off eBay. That's actually an original sconce from, I think, the 1920s, 1930s, all cast brass, and then just did the the glue gun effect, put some LED flicker bulbs in there. Really nice pieces, actually. And then there's just a table here that I recycled from the crypt and just kind of turned it into, just kept the candles on it that I had last year, and then fastened that vase down with a toggle bolt just so it wouldn't fall over, because this is a crash zone, because I've got these portraits. Again, these are just stills taken from the Atmosphere Effects unliving portraits, and this portrait is static. This is the drop panel. A scare box behind that with an actor. They've got a monitor, and you can see up there I've got the security camera, so they're able to see the guests come around the corner. And then they can choose to either drop the panel or trigger the prop in the next room, which was kind of a cool thing, because the groups that would come through, depending upon what they were doing or if they had been through already, they can either choose to do the same scare or switch it up a little bit, or do both. So going through to the last room here, this is what we're calling the parlor. It is the music room. Actually have a real piano in here that my neighbor spent all day gutting. So it is completely gutted on the inside, so I can actually move it by myself. And I can also animate this at some point. That is kind of the plan for next year, have those piano keys playing. There is a prop controller back there that is playing ambient, detuned piano notes. Sounds really creepy. But it also is controlling a pneumatic prop that the scare actor can trigger. So let's see if I can get a shot of that here. So down here is, let's see, that's a better angle, is the creepy mask and dummy, and that's set up on a pneumatic cylinder. The prop controller is in there, and there's a speaker, and they can trigger that, and that lady there will make an appearance, and she pops up about 24 inches above the top of the piano here to give the guests another scare. So that combination of the drop panel and the pneumatic scare, I think really got some people, because some people in the front would get scared, and the people in the back would not exactly know what was going on, and they could drop the panel, and it just made for a really cool option for the scare actor. Again, got nano spots in here with some different colors, some blue. Got a chandelier here from Goodwill. It was quite a bit bigger than this, had a third tier down here, but I basically took that tier off just because of the height of the ceiling. And we got some webs on there and just some blue lights, which casts a really cool shadow back on this green curtain.
Yeah, so the green curtain, not what I originally planned. Unfortunately, I ran out of time. I was using a technique from Van Oaks Props on how to kind of dress up your haunt walls. I couldn't find a shower curtain like he used, but I did get some lace from Walmart. I think I got several yards for like $4 and made a stencil frame, and that worked really, really good until I got about to the end of the haunt. Really started to load up with paint, started to look pretty crappy. So instead of kind of continuing on with that, I just took, this is actually a green screen that I have, and just threw it up there, and hopefully it was going to look somewhat like a curtain. Also, one of those wall panels has a big gaping hole in it from a different haunt setup that I was using, and it was for an actor to come in and out. So it wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it worked out all right. So the bulbs that I'm using in these candles and these sconces, and really kind of throughout the haunt, anytime I'm using a candle effect, they're these little 12-volt LED. They're pre-wired flicker bulbs, and they come in a bunch of different colors. I typically get them in amber, but they're from lighthouseleds.com. They're pretty inexpensive, about 49 cents a piece. You can get them in little different sizes, so you can get them in 3mm and 5mm, and that's the diameter of the actual bulb itself. But they're really small. You can hide them pretty easily, and they're low voltage, so they're very easy to hook up to like a simple 1 amp power supply.
Just two single LED flicker bulbs. And that's pretty much it. It's a short haunt, but I spent a lot of time getting kind of the details of it worked out. I think next year we could easily add on another hallway, but all the hard work is done for the interior. It's just going to be making the front of the haunt look more like a hotel.
All right, so a little bit on my setup for my prop controllers and my show controllers. Like I mentioned before, I'm using the Boo Box Flex. This is the 8 output version with the last 2 outputs dimmable for small LEDs. So basically how I'm running it is I've got the beam sensor triggering the unit. Then I also have a line going to my Spirit media player that will trigger that. And then there's 2 sconces on the inside wall that are attached to this first output. Now, originally I had the lightning effect attached to the last 2 outputs there, but I was having some issues with consistency. So sometimes it would trigger and sometimes it wouldn't. So that wasn't really working out for me. So what I did to work around that is I have a lightning box. So I split the audio and ran it to the speaker, and also ran the other audio to the lightning box and used that. Now, the timing was a bit weird, but I opted for the consistency of at least having some lightning, as opposed to not having it at all and just having the thunder sound and then not seeing the prop light up behind there. So I got to figure out what's going on with those 2 outputs. There were lights, so I know that there was something happening there, but I don't know why it wasn't triggering every time. So I'm going to have to check that out. figure out what's going on. Also had my house lights in here as well. They're just LEDs. It's running off of a 12-volt power supply, and what's nice about these, I think I just got these on Amazon. I think they're actually for jewelry cases, but you can dim them down, and so, you know, depending upon how much light you need, or if you're working on your haunt, you can turn them all the way up, and it's great. So this is my old audio system. Got my power conditioner, a CD player that God knows why I still have that, and then the haunt speakers were just run off of this old home theater amp. This is all going away. So completely new system, completely taking another direction and stepping up my game audio wise. So I'll have a video on what I'm doing there. Just simple pancake compressor running the prop that's behind the piano. That is being controlled by a Peekaboo prop controller from Fright Props. And just pretty simple setup for that. Audio going into powered speaker. Most of the actual scares have powered speakers. I mentioned I was using that home theater amp. That was just pumping the ambient sounds through the haunt through an old iPod that I have. That's also gonna go away too. Just I've got a BooTunes that's gonna be taking care of all the ambient music throughout the haunt this year as well. But I'm gonna get a video together of kind of my new audio setup and how I'm gonna be running sound to the different zones as well. So stay tuned for that. So lastly, I've got my queue line out front set up. This was actually repurposed from a haunt that my other Holy City haunter, Jason, had. So that's been working out great for the queue line. Got my pumpkin guy made from melted trash bags and PVC frame. Learned that from Stiltbeat Studios. I'll put a link in the description to his channel. He's got some really, really great tutorials. Repurposed cemetery sign for the hotel. That's going to change for next year. So if you got any questions, please feel free to leave it in the comments. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. We'd love to hear from you, and we look forward to getting our next video out real soon.